All right, let me share my screen. All right, welcome everyone tonight. Thank you for joining. And if you're catching the recording, just make this a little smaller here. Okay, and if you are catching the recording, someone give me a thumbs up if this looks good. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, my name is Carly Kelly. I'm super excited to be here tonight. This topic is near and dear to my heart, and it's something that I'm really passionate about and something that I had to learn about on my own. And I also feel like it's something that is met with some resistance and maybe shame to talk about. And we feel guilty, when some of our behaviors can be impacting our kids. So I decided to rip the Band-Aid off and started sharing my journey, everything that I've learned. I have about 14 years of personal development experience, and 7 of that is with parenting and learning this stuff that I'm going to teach you guys. A little bit about my story. We had to go through IVF to conceive both of our kids. And that was met with a lot of stress, a lot of kind of bartering with God. I was like, okay, God, if you give me a child, I'll never yell. I'll be like the best mom ever and I'll do the thing. And so I thought I had like motherhood in the bag. I was like, okay, we went through all this to get the kids. I mean, I did therapy beforehand. I did therapy during IVF. I went through prenatal yoga teacher training, all of these things that impact our mind and our body, because I knew I was more susceptible to postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety. I knew the kind of parent that I wanted to be. And so I thought, okay, great, this is done. We're here. I got my kids. I went through the journey to get them. And what I found was you can't you can't out heal stuff until you really become a parent and you meet your triggers head on, and you really are able to see them in real time experience. And I'll never forget the first time I yelled at my son. And it wasn't until I actually had my daughter. I never yelled at him. I didn't raise my voice for about 2.5 years. And when I had my daughter, she cried for the first 3 to 4 months. And I didn't understand at the time that my nervous system was in a chronic state of fight or flight. I was so overwhelmed. My cortisol was spiked, which led to like adrenal burnout. So this kind of stuff is really important also from a hormonal standpoint, from our blood sugar standpoint, from an emotional standpoint. And I didn't understand all that at the time. I just thought I was going crazy. And I couldn't believe that I yelled at my son. And so when that happened, I was like, wow, okay, I really want to understand this. I really want to get a hold of this. And that's what led me to the other part of my healing journey. So it got me past just the personal development piece and really had me starting understanding my body, the psychological triggers, the hormonal triggers, and the impact that all of that has together for all of us. Okay, we'll drop this in the chat. I can't really see the chat right now, but if you have questions or you want to follow up or follow along, you can drop your IG handle and we can all connect after, and you can ask me some questions there and follow along my craziness in a world with 2 kids. All right, so what we're going to go over tonight is what bad behavior actually is in kids and what actually is going on, why we yell and react, what got me to stop yelling for the most part, and ways to regulate our own nervous system. So that's a little overview of tonight. And I was going to ask you guys to raise your hand if you've ever struggled with this, but I know almost if you're a mom, you have. Like you've either yelled too much, you've had a really off day, you don't know how to stop. I mean, these are actual messages that I have from other moms in my inbox. These are just copy and paste messages. We feel exhausted and we're reactive and we go to bed and we're like, God, I promise tonight, I promise I won't do it again tomorrow. I'm going to be better tomorrow. And then we wake up and it's like the same pattern, the same triggers, the same things happen the next day. We want to be more present with our kids, but we're constantly getting triggered, or we're overwhelmed as moms. We're trying to do so many things and we're trying to keep up. We've read all the books, but we can't access these tools. And I just want you to know that if you're someone who has struggled with this kind of stuff you're not alone. I really feel like if you're a mom, you've had some sort of struggle at one point, at one season or another. And, before I keep going, I was saying this before I hit record. The past week and a half, we've had a lot of different things. My husband started a new job. My mom and family's in town. We've traveled. Declan graduated. Like what? I have a little nugget. Like this is crazy stuff. So it's all these things that are happening at one time. I have this webinar and I'm like putting the pressure on myself to do a good job. It's everything. All that stuff raises your cortisol, keeps you stressed. And so even for me, someone who's practiced these tools and has them in place and has the awareness, I still struggled the last 2 weeks. And I was like, this is a perfect reminder for the women on this call that, we can do all the things, but we still have to be in practice. We still have to be aware and we still have to understand what's going on. Because I've even spoken it out loud to my mom. I'm like, my volcano is bubbling. I'm here. And like before, I never would have done that. I just kind of would have swept it under the rug and, just bottled up my emotions and moved on. But I think being able to speak about it is also brings an element of healing and understanding, and we can all learn from each other. So I just thought that was really interesting because we all deserve to feel calm and centered and in control, especially when things get, chaotic. And we want to be able to respond to our kids with patience and connection and not just be frustrated all the time. And it's really important. Kids are not always going to listen to what they say. They're going to model what we do, right? And if you're someone who has made these mistakes, or maybe you're someone who's really deep in the trenches with struggling, you can turn this around. I always say, look at the behavior, like look at your behavior for the last 3 months, and that'll indicate your kids' behavior. And I've seen it with my kids the last 2 weeks. I'm like, whoa, this house, we all need a detox. We all need to get it together, But it's really true because they feed off of our energy. And if we're not doing what we need to do for ourselves, then it's going to dump out onto them. So, even feeling proud of the good things and the things that have gone our way at the end of the day is so important because, most of us want to create that home that feels peaceful, emotionally safe for people to have big emotions and for us to be able to handle those big emotions. But if we weren't taught that and we were taught to, go to our room, be quiet, get spanked, wash your mouth out with soap, then all of those triggers are going to come up in parenting and in motherhood. And so, let me take a quick drink. When I was doing all of this work, I found the missing piece for me in doing this was I could read all the parenting books. I did. I did so many courses. I did so many things, got so many certifications, and went through a lot because I just wanted to be the best mom that I could be. And, what I also want to reiterate through this is there's no perfect mom. The goal is not perfection because that will drive you to the other end of the ship. The goal is to be aware, to understand what's happening in your body, to understand also how that's linked to your hormones, your cortisol, and your nervous system, and what you can do about it when you get to those moments before the volcano explodes, right? It's all of the little things. It's just like nutrition and fitness. It's just like our wellness journey. It's those little things that we do that a lot of us don't want to do, that pave the way for these shifts. And so what I realized was I knew all the things to say. I knew all the what am I trying to say? The scripts, right? In parenting. I knew the books, but I couldn't access them in the moment. And that's because when we're in a chronic state of fight or flight and our cortisol spike, every alarm in our body is going off. And we can't access that part of our brain until we have slowed down. So I'll talk about that in a little bit. But what I really realized was we got to work on the mom first, work on the triggers first, and what's coming up for us before we can really access those parenting tools. And it makes it easier to. It makes it easier to go, oh, I got a toolbox full of toys full of tools. Let me access one when we can do that. But a lot of times, can't do that because we haven't worked on the root cause of these triggers. All right, and why this matters in parenting, because our emotions and our behaviors are tied to our own nervous system, and that is tied to our kids. When they're overwhelmed and tired or scared, their nervous system is already in overdrive. So when they meet ours, it's just a head-to-head power struggle combustion because they're going to continue to feed off of ours. But if we don't know how to self-regulate in those really hard moments, then we can't teach them to. So this is really important stuff. Again, the goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to understand this and be aware so you can do just a little bit better each day and also aware of what's going on in our bodies, right? So what is bad behavior? What it actually is. So let me move this over. When kids feel unsafe or stressed, part of this is understanding your own kids' triggers. Have they had too much screen time? Have they had too much sugar? Have they, been traveling? Like, what's going on for them? Think about the kids. They're being told what to do all day long. Do you have to pee? Do you have to poop? Are you hungry? You got to eat this. You got to eat that. It's all day long. They're told what to do, how to sit, how to be. And so it's looking at them through the lens of like, what's going on with them? A lot of times when they're in fight or flight mode, they're either going to hit, they're going to run. They're not doing it because they want to hurt their mom. They're doing it because all behavior is a type of communication and they don't know how to say, I've had a really long day and this kid at school really hurt my feelings and I didn't know how to handle it and it embarrassed me. So it's going to come up in their safe place, their home, and around, their parents where they feel they can unwind. Just like, I don't know if any of you guys have done that with your husband or your spouse where you're like taking stuff out on them because unfortunately, sometimes we do that to the people who are closest to us. But when we can look at our kids' behavior through the lens of fight, flight, or freeze and what's really going on with them, it makes a huge difference. Huge. I worked with a client, Monica, a mom, another mom. She's incredible. But also, when we started implementing some of this stuff that I teach, one big thing is how we label our kids and what we think about them. So, if you have like a problem child, right, or your kid is doing this to annoy you, if you're going to have those thoughts about your child, how are you going to feel about them? You're going to feel frustrated. You're going to feel annoyed, you're going to feel agitated, and then how are you going to act, right? And you can do this model on anyone, even your husband. If you're looking at your husband like, God, he never does the dishes, God, why do I always have to tell him what to do? And you're thinking these thoughts about him, you're going to in turn treat him a certain way, right? So with working with her, we really worked on reframing a lot of this stuff and seeing her kids' behavior as a need for communication. And now they have just a beautiful relationship. She's no longer labeling him and looking at him in a certain way because she also realized that he is mirroring a lot of things in her that she wasn't able to say, do, or act as a child. So when we were able to unpack that and get to the emotional root of some of these triggers, huge shifts have happened in her house. Even her husband was like, I can just tell you're different, you're learning, you're growing, and it's just a beautiful story. So let me take a quick sip. So when we can understand why we feel the need to yell and react when our kids behave badly, it really, I'm a visual learner. So when I could understand really what was going on, it helped me to know what to do. So when our bodies, you guys, become really stressed and our cortisol spikes, like I talked about, that's one of our hormones in our body, our blood sugar also spikes. So if you're someone who gets a lot of anxiety or you go to from 0 to 10 really fast, that is a huge spike in your body. Every alarm is going off from your brain. You can't access the part of your brain, the rational part that you need to have a conversation, right? Your body and your brain, they doesn't know literally if it's a bear chasing you or if it's a messy, chaotic house. It's all the signals are going off at once. And we tend to have that fight or flight survival mode, right? I can tend to flight. I'm out. Peace. See you guys. Like that's kind of my default. But we can't regulate our body and our hormones if we don't feel safe. But this is a visual of like what's happening in those moments. So a lot of times it's not us and we're a bad parent and we don't know how to handle our kid. It's all of these alarms are going off. And when we can be aware of that, we can implement change. But it brings back to the awareness piece. And so that's where like this is where the I'm sorry, my Zoom screen's in the way, but when we hit that point of all the alarms going off in our body, right? I like to use the volcano analogy and everything's bubbling, we're bubbling. It's a stress response from our nervous system. So it's not a personality flaw. It's not like we're born to just be moms who yell and who go from 0 to 10 or who want to treat our kids that way. Our brain does not feel safe. And a lot of it goes back to things that we've learned, experiences we've had that are stored in the body. And when I understood this, it was like a game changer. And it made me see things like from a visual standpoint of what was actually going on versus what I thought was going on, as I laid my head down at night, like, I'm a terrible mom. Oh my God, I'm ruining my kids. I can't do this. Like, and I was like able to visualize, no, my body was sounding all of these alarms, and I need to be able to tune in and hit the next thing I'm going to talk about before it happens. Like, grab a tool before it happens. Another thing for me, and for a lot of moms that I talk to, I don't know, you can raise your hand if you get overstimulated with a lot of noise, a lot of chaotic stuff going on at once. So I use this phrase in our house. I'm like, control the environment. What can I control? Noisy toys are gone, right? TV is on a low setting. Just I implemented things in my house that allowed my nervous system to feel safe. So in those moments that I needed to access it, I could. Um, headphones were a great tool in the beginning for me to drown out some of the noise. I could still hear what was going on, but it gave me that like buffer and where I needed stillness and quietness in order to reset and recalibrate. So that leads me to what actually like really worked and got me to stop yelling, because I noticed, you guys, when I was yelling, I don't know if happens in your household, but the minute my child mirrored my behavior, I was like, oh, dang, it's like they're learning it from us. So it's just, it's wild how it all works. Um, so one thing that I did indirectly that I label now as the power pause, I didn't know what I was doing before. But when I felt like I was getting ready to like erupt, I would say, I need a minute. I'm bubbling. And I spent more time in that garage and more time on my closet floor in these months while I was trying to figure all this out, because it's scientifically proven that when we give our brains 60 to 80 seconds from that heightened sense of cortisol spiking, if we can give ourselves 60 seconds, it'll come down. And I don't know if you guys have ever wanted to send like a reactionary text or like a bad email, or you're worked up about something. You're like, oh, I'm going to get that person. I'm going to let them know how I feel. If you give yourself that 60 seconds, it is clinically proven to bring your hormones back down to a regulated state. You can access that part of your brain where the tools are, where your scripts are, where your namaste, whatever you want to call it that works for you is. But I call it the power pause. And I'd be like, I'm going to the garage. And at the time, I didn't know what I was doing. But when I dove into more of the literature and studying behind this, I realized, oh my God, this makes sense. It gave me that time to come down, to come inside and be able to access it. And the other day, my daughter was like, Mommy, I think can somebody mute themselves? I don't know who that was, but the other day, my daughter was even like, Mommy, I think you need to take some of your lion breaths and deep breaths. Like, they're picking up on this stuff of what we teach them.
It's a meeting. Or is she talking to you?
Sorry, I think I figured out who it was. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so other ways that I like to regulate and that have really worked is obviously the power pause, because it gives your brain and your body and that cortisol time to come down, time to reset, and allows you the space to access what you need to access. But one thing that I love to do, you guys, is speak what I'm feeling. And some of the tools that I also teach might work great for someone. I'm very visual. I had hot pink tape all over my house when I first started doing this work, because I really wanted to regulate myself. I wanted to teach my kids that. I wanted to have a safe place for them to grow up and express themselves without me huffing and puffing, right? So speaking out loud to what is going on allows your brain and body to connect. So I'll say, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. Mommy's getting worked up. I'm going to take a break. The other day, I went to the mirror and I put my hand on my heart and I said, I know you're frustrated right now, Carly. You can handle anything. You take a break. I was just modeling what I wanted my daughter and my kids to do in that moment, like take a pause, talk to themselves. I mean, they both stopped and looked at me and were like, what are you doing, lady, in front of the mirror? But then they loved it. And there's other things I've done. I pretended like I talk Spanish, and just to get a different burst of energy from everyone, and we all start laughing and they're like, "What are you saying, mommy?" And it just changes. Again, my goal is not to sit there and yell to get cooperation. It's to do things that are going to bring in connection. So if I'm going to pretend to speak Spanish in a moment where I'm dysregulated, it brought us all back to laughter. And I have so many different tools that work for different kinds of people and and learning styles and different kind of households. And what you're going through, particularly with your kid, might be something different than someone else. So, but I really feel like regulating ourselves is the first step in really teaching our kids how to feel safe and secure at home. All right, who here has had a perfect childhood? Nobody. Nobody has. I mean, some of us have had great childhoods. Some of us have had really, 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 really hard and challenging things happen in our childhood. So, wherever you fall on that spectrum, there are things that have happened to us indirectly, maybe by our parents or maybe in school, but things have affected us from our past. And this is one thing I absolutely love to teach and show women how to do is reparent yourself in a very healthy and healing way, because many of us grew up in a home where there was either chronic stress or we were told, okay, get to your room. I'm going to wash your mouth out if you say something that your parents didn't like, or you were spanked, or you were shut down, or girls are supposed to be polite. That's not very girly. Like, you weren't allowed to be big and expressive. Whatever that looked like in your home, that's stored in our body. I don't know if you guys have ever read the book, The Body Keeps Score, but I truly believe that things are stored. It's not me believing, it's actually true that we store things in our body and our mind, and we can default back to those moments subconsciously. And that goes back to our thoughts. We have 80,000 thoughts a day, you guys. 80,000. Can you imagine the work our brain is doing? So when we're lost in thought too, and our kid comes and mommy, 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 it's like, what? What do you need? Because we're not present. We're in la la land, 80,000 thoughts a day, and that was a big trigger for me too, was okay, when I'm here in this moment, I'm here in this moment. Work is shut down. When I'm here with making dinner. I'm here making dinner. So a lot of it comes back to being present and sometimes I can say, "Oh, I see little Carly, 5-year-old popping up." But when you're present and aware to what's going on in your body and you understand the stress response, it's easier to access this stuff. But reparenting yourself creates so much safety and rest and boundaries and healing in our own bodies. And it's so important to do. And it's one of my favorite things to teach. I absolutely love it. So, with that being said, if you guys are comfortable and want to walk through this exercise with me, it'll be short. You can turn your screen off if you want, but all I'm going to have you do is just close your eyes, and like it'll be probably 2 or 3 minutes. I'll make it short, but it's really powerful. And I want you guys to feel like what comes up in your body, maybe where you're storing tension. And I'm just going to walk you through it really quick. So if you guys want to close your eyes, take a big inhale in, and I'm going to close my eyes too, so I can't see anyone, but take a deep inhale in, hold for 5 at the top, exhale out for 7. Do that again. A big inhale in. Hold at the top for 5. Exhale out for 7. I can already feel my body just calmer. So do that one more time. Hold at the top and exhale out. And I want you to be comfortable wherever you're sitting and think back to a time when you were 4, 5, 6 years old. A time where maybe you were yelled at or told to go to your room. Maybe you were spanked. Maybe you felt like your voice didn't matter. And don't force something to come up, but just think of a memory, think of a time in your childhood where something happened to you that made you feel not good enough, not worthy, that your voice didn't matter. And once you find that moment, I want you to just sit there, sit with that young girl, and just feel what she was feeling in that moment. And if thoughts arise or you start to feel silly doing this, I just want you to come back to that moment in time, be present right where you're at, and meet her for another 5 to 10 seconds. And now, what I want you to do is, in your mind, I want you to think about what she really needed to hear in that moment. What did she need to feel? What did she need her parent or the other person in that situation to do for her, to give to her, to say to her? I want you to speak that into her right now and say what you really needed to hear in that moment, what your 4, 5, 6-year-old self really deserved to hear. They needed to feel like who they truly are. Maybe you want to reach out your hand, hold on tight. When I did this first couple of times, I just wanted to just hug her and pour into her and tell her, she mattered and her questions were phenomenal. And even though she talked a lot, her voice mattered. And she didn't need to shut down and play small for anybody. That her voice was amazing the way it is, and to keep asking those questions, and that she was truly enough. I want you to take this last few seconds to really pour into your 4, 5, 6-year-old self. And this is what's happened to so many of us, is things in our past, things in our that have been done to us or said to us. I remember this one time, I had short hair, it was cut like a boy. I never got picked to dance ever. And I made it mean that I wasn't good enough, I wasn't worthy. And so all of these situations and things that have happened to us compile over time and makes our body feel less safe. It makes us feel more reactive. And so when we can meet, you guys can open your eyes now, but I don't know if you feel that. I just feel like a softness. I feel like my shoulders are relaxed. I don't know if any of you guys felt that anywhere in your body, or maybe your jaw was clenched. But when I first started doing a little bit of that work and meditating, I really felt myself like releasing and meeting myself with more compassion and more empathy and more understanding, right, of what was truly like going on and what I was made to feel like. And then it was like, nobody's fault and not my own. So I don't know. Did that help anyone? You guys like that? Yeah. Okay. All right. So, what is next? I have something really exciting that I have been working on, and that a few moms that I have worked with prior were like, "You have got to do this. You need to put together a course. You need to help women understand this stuff, and that it's not their child. It's not them. It's just healing needs to take place, and the nervous system impacts kids' behavior." So, um, like I said before, even me doing this work and understanding all of this stuff, I still am triggered. So, in these big moments of new jobs and new careers, lack of sleep is a big trigger for me. I understand that about myself. I'm able to ask what I need. Like this morning is a perfect example. I said to Sean, I said, can you please get up with the kids this morning? I have got to get a workout in. A lot of us aren't even asking for what we need because we don't even know what we need sometimes. We're just running on empty, trying to do everything and be everything to everyone. And that's going to lead to that constant burnout, that constant cortisol spike, and then adrenal fatigue. Hitting the adrenal fatigue is not a fun place to be. So, if you have the right tools, you can manage this in a healthier way. Again, it's not perfect. We're not trying to be perfect parents and moms. We're also teaching and understanding what repair looks like. So, um, if any of you guys are done with the parenting books and done losing your cool, you're tired of knowing what to do, but not being able to access that stuff, or if you're sick of ending your days in bed saying, I swear to God, I'm not going to do it again tomorrow, I'm not going to yell. Um, and you want to feel calmer and more connected with your kids, you want to have a more peaceful home, this is what starts to happen when you start to regulate your nervous system, and then you can teach your kids how to do the same thing. And that's why I created this 8 week healing program. I named it Root Down to Rise Up, because a lot of times we're looking for the root cause in health stuff that's going on with our bodies, in things that we are going through, in hormonal stuff, but we're not taught to look for the root cause of motherhood and of emotion. So the first part of the program really works on the mom and healing the nervous system, having tools in place to do that, the inner child work, understanding our hormones even more, and deeper regulation tools, because I feel like that's the missing piece. Then we go into phase two, which is parenting tools, cultivating a team environment in your home, really laying the foundation for you and your spouse to get on board with each other. If that's my husband came from a boys don't cry, 6 men quarterback NFL family, very intense. And I was like, oh, honey, boys cry. So we had a lot of my nervous system came, but with me butting heads with my husband. It wasn't always about my kids, but it came in that form. So then phase three is really learning how to integrate this in your daily life with tools that can fit into, if you're a working mom, if you're a stay-at-home mom, things that you can do where you are checking in with yourself and what you actually need. A lot of times, I said, we're running around, we're focusing on other people, and it leads to burnout. That stuff is important, but you are the most important piece to this puzzle too, which is a blessing, and it also feels like a big undertaking sometimes too. But when I feel that way, I just remind myself, what is one thing in this moment that I can do and do it well? Not everything, one thing. So the type of moms, maybe you know what you should do, but you still end up yelling, snapping, or shutting down when things get hard, or you are just totally overwhelmed and you have no idea where to start. You read the books, but nothing is helping, then this is for you. And we are going to start on June 2nd. It's going to be 8 weeks. You'll have full on Voxer support with me. And it's going to be an incredible, incredible program if you want to go deeper with this stuff. It'll be once a week coaching calls where you can get support and clarity, but then that private Voxer chat where you can walk through situations with me, like, hey, my husband and I were having a hard time with this, or my child's doing this, or I'm feeling like this. And we can walk through some of those situations together. And then there's going to be a bonus one-on-one individual inner child healing workshop that I'll do with each of you on your own if you really want to go deeper in that stuff, because it can be so life-changing when it comes to parenting. And then some of the questions that I've gotten about this is, I'm too overwhelmed to start. This program is going to lay the foundation for little things that we can do to tweak to get you to a place where you're not feeling overwhelmed. Y'all, this is poured into my marriage. That's one of my biggest changing things that have happened for me. Like I said, a lot of my struggles was yelling at my husband, not so much always at my kids, but really getting frustrated with him. But doing this work has helped me communicate in so much better. It's helped us reconnect, have more intimacy in our marriage, just different things, because I was more regulated and I wasn't constantly, walking on eggshells in our house and feeling like I was gonna yell and explode. Um, oh God, this one, shouldn't we all know how to do this? We're not taught this, and you can't know something unless you're taught it. And if we don't heal and understand the root cause of what's going on, then how do we know this? I had to figure that. I wish that I had this, honestly. I wish I had someone to walk me through some of these things. I was hot pink taping my whole house and reading all these, what is going on with me? I need to get on Prozac, just craziness it was just crazy. So I really wish that I had someone to, teach me what was truly going on in my body too. And then how to get my husband on board. So one thing that we have implemented our house is that we've cultivated an incredible team environment here, and that is in phase two that we'll go over some of that stuff. So if you guys want more information on that, or if you know another mom who is really struggling and could use 8 weeks of support, you can message me, comment calm on Instagram. We can chat there. I can answer any questions there. Or if you guys have questions now here, or want to share anything that you want to share, I'd be happy to answer for you guys. And if not, I'm just really glad and thankful that you guys joined. And it's been a hectic 2 weeks here, but this was a beautiful way to bring it all together full circle moment. And again, understanding that things are going to happen in our life. And by having the tools, we are able to access, you know, so much more now than what I would have been able to 3 years ago. You guys have any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Hey, so um remind me, I forgot what that slide said, but remind me how it works in terms of the time.
Okay. I was looking how to stop recording really quick.
In terms of like when we meet